Hey everyone, welcome to the Self-Awareness Journey podcast. I'm Melissa Albers.
And I'm JJ Parker. This podcast is for seekers of happiness and joy, seekers of a centered approach to success in life, seekers of their true, authentic selves.
Get ready for some real talk on everything from anxiety, emotions, and habits to love, compassion, and forgiveness. We know you'll be challenged and enlightened by this conversation. We're so glad you're here. Let's dive in.
We're going to talk about emotional intelligence today.
I don't feel like it.
What?
I'm just kidding.
A strong reaction.
I'm just kidding.
Well, we've had a couple episodes, conversations like the past few weeks around like being sensitive and even like using social capital and these kind of things that are swirling around this topic of emotional intelligence. And you and I thought we should kind of dive into it because even the phrase emotional intelligence, some people call it EQ.
Yeah. Right.
It's like what I asked you the other day, what does that actually mean?
Yeah.
'Cause I was like not super sure on what emotional intelligence like actually means. I kind of get a sense of what it means, but thought we should like dive into what this actually means.
I'm so excited for this conversation. I really am. I was teasing you. I think this is so relevant to the self-awareness journey. You know, I mean, there's no better topic that runs parallel or informs self-awareness and vice versa.
Yeah.
As emotional intelligence.
First, I was like trying to research this a little bit because I've heard people say EQ and emotional intelligence. And I'm like, why is it called EQ?
Yeah.
Because I don't like when things don't
line up equally perfectly in a box.
Everything in my world must be symmetrical and perfect. That's not
including
anywhere
your tape dispenser on your desk.
Emotional intelligence is like the EQ part is like a riff off of IQ.
Yep.
So like IQ would be like your intellectual quotient.
Yep.
Which is kind of like how smart you are, and then EQ would be your emotional quotient.
Exactly.
But people say emotional intelligence because emotional quotient sounds weird.
Yeah. Well, and I think too, having a phrase like that, like EQ, it's easy to differentiate IQ versus EQ because they sound the same. You know, they're similar. So
so when I was like coming across that and reading about that, the one interesting thing that I read was that your IQ is generally set. Like
yes.
Like it's kind of a static property. Like your IQ when you were in fourth grade is about what it is now. I mean, you can like learn new things, but it's sort of like your ability in that way is kind of hardwired.
Yeah, isn't that interesting? I was so surprised to find that out too. I always thought that, actually, I judge myself because of IQ numbers and feeling like, oh, I need to go to class. I need to do these things to increase my IQ, and then finding out that that's not really how it works. It's pretty interesting.
So quit studying and stop reading all those books. What are you promoting here? Whereas like emotional intelligence can change, can grow, is not a set like hard wiring in your brain, and you can work on it.
Yeah.
So I thought that was really interesting. So, the definition. I'll just start with the definition because I love definitions.
Yeah. I love when you do a little research.
So, emotional intelligence refers to the ability to recognize, understand, manage, and reason with emotions, both one's own and those of others.
Okay.
So it involves a set of skills that help individuals navigate social complexities, build healthier relationships, manage stress, and make informed decisions. What do you think of that definition?
I love that definition. The first thing I thought of is, oh man, that's such a great justifier for people that normally want to turn away from emotions. Like if you ever want to think about why to focus on this and improve your EQ, this would be the reason why. All of those reasons that you just listed are hugely beneficial.
Yeah. So, on that list, um, what are like the benefits of being more emotionally intelligent? What do you
Well,
think?
yeah. I mean, I guess I want you to answer your same question, but I think for me, what comes to mind is that when you have more emotional intelligence, you're better able to make any kind of decision that you need to, even when that's a analytical or cerebral decision.
Mm-hmm.
And you can do it more quickly and with a real understanding of why you're doing what you're doing, why you're thinking how you're thinking, why it matters. I was just going to say, I just got through taking a short class through a psychology organization for coaches and therapists. And it was this whole idea about how when we have trauma in our life, I won't go into a rabbit hole, but it was about trauma and past trauma and how to overcome past trauma. But here's the thing that I took away from that course, even more than strategies to help people overcome trauma. The thing that I took away from that course the most was they were interviewing all these psychiatrists and all these therapists, and they were all of the exact same belief today that in the world of therapy before, it was all head up. It was all like, analyze this, analyze that, think your way out of this, think your way into this strategy. Everything was think. And now they are saying subjectivity and the therapist's emotions and their awareness of their patient's emotions is critical to solving and helping that person through it. So I thought that was fascinating. So essentially then they were saying, you can't just think your way out of these issues. You have to feel it. You have to understand your feelings. And you also have to, as the person supporting someone else, you also have to be open to the feeling part. So like this is right here with emotional intelligence.
Yeah, absolutely. And in, I like that story about in a sort of clinical therapy kind of situation.
Yeah.
But that same thing applies to being a manager at work.
Oh my gosh, does it ever?
It applies to being a good partner at home.
Right.
You know, it's I was just looking for it because you also sent me your friend and colleague Mary's
our friend and colleague.
Because she does this emotional intelligence like workshop. What is it? That's what it is.
It's absolutely fantastic. Yeah, it's about the brain and emotional intelligence.
And for us neck up people, she sent this. I'm showing Melissa in the camera this image. And she talked about this when she was on, and we were talking. Were we talking about sleep or something?
Yeah, I think we were talking about sleep.
But this image of information flow
through the brain.
Through the brain. It's a picture of a brain. And it's got like your spinal cord, so like the back of your neck.
Side view of it, yeah.
And it talks about how information comes in, through your senses, right? Through your eyes and your ears and the rest of your body, through the spinal cord, through the limbic system, and then into the prefrontal cortex where you're actually doing your thinking. But it always hits that feeling part. That limbic system part first, before it gets to the rational part.
No matter who you are, whether you're
Einstein, you don't get to get away from having all of that information hit your feeling before it hits your thinking.
Yeah. Yep.
So, getting in touch with that is super important. So, I had this little list. You asked me. I had this list of how does emotional intelligence. What are the benefits?
Yeah.
So self-awareness for sure. Improved self-awareness. I feel like if you can become, this is a whole self-awareness journey, right? Like if you can get more in touch with getting ahead of that big emotional rush.
Yep.
Or understanding it's coming and understanding how to deal with it, it's going to be better. Which leads to better self-regulation.
Right.
I think that's one of the keys, right? You talk about that all the time. Like instead of having these big waves of emotions, just a little calmer waters, right? Enhanced emotional or enhanced communication skills. so you can communicate with everybody better.
And boy, don't you find, just right there, like someone that can accurately not only be experiencing emotions, but be able to describe using words exactly what they're feeling. It is so easy to be in a relationship with someone that's good at that.
All the time. How many times have you been like in maybe like an argument or something, and you're like fighting for who knows, something?
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
And then you realize like, oh wait, no, this whole thing is because I'm super upset at something else. And
I
it's not
didn't
really
get
about
the
this.
right Starbucks order through my drive-through order. Yeah.
Yeah. And then you stop and you're just like, oh, I'm sorry. I'm actually like really upset about something else. And the other person's like, oh, no problem. Got it. Like, and you just, it just instantly disarms the situation. As soon as you figure out your root emotion, it's really disarming in a conversation.
Yeah, that's a good perspective. I hadn't thought of it from that angle, but that's absolutely true.
People will give you a lot of grace once you figure out what you're reacting to.
And if you can communicate it accurately because you understand your feeling in the moment.
Yep. But the problem is it's hard to, and when you don't, and when so many of us don't,
right?
Like we just go, maybe we have a conflict, we just move on from it, and it never really gets resolved, which is not great.
Right. I just right there, again, just referencing this thing that I just did with this coursework. This is exactly what you're talking about. We all have kind of traumas or stresses. Trauma is a big word, so let's just say we all have stuff in our past that triggers us into having emotions, and anytime we can just be in our day-to-day lives and something can trigger a memory or a feeling that feels scary or feels sad or feels overwhelming. And if we have a higher level of emotional intelligence because we've taken the time to learn, we can just that's what you're talking about, is just dissolve it quickly rather than just getting caught up in this thing and not understanding it. Some people actually never ever do understand what their triggers are. Yeah. Because they don't see the value in it, or they don't think that they have the strength or the skills to be able to figure it out. Which in fact they really can. It's quite simple to work on your emotional intelligence. Yep.
Which leads to stronger relationships.
Yes, exactly. Right? Yeah. And in everything, not just in your house.
Yep. At work, all over.
Yeah.
We talk about EQ at work. That's kind of especially in like the leadership circles, that's a big topic, right? So the more emotionally intelligent you are, the better leader you will be.
Right.
Which I think is pretty interesting. I feel like years ago, decades ago, being a leader was like I don't know, strong, bravado, it was macho. More, you're like you have all the answers,
assertiveness and
whoever's the loudest is the leader.
Right, the biggest club. Whoever had the biggest club.
For some reason, you said biggest club, and I'm like a nightclub? What are you talking about?
No, we're not in Argentina. No, I actually meant like a caveman club is
like
what I was picturing.
Got it. But nowadays, it's well proven that leaders that are highly emotionally intelligent are more effective.
Yeah,
I think people better.
Yeah, I think, John Maxwell says it best when he said, it used to be leadership was all about authority. And that is just, brute force, get it done. I'm in charge. And it is now all about influence. And I actually think it probably was back then, but we didn't have the intelligence emotionally to understand that. And I think now we're becoming way more aware of that. And, there's particular pockets like nonprofits and stuff like that where you absolutely cannot operate without it. You can't operate without emotional intelligence as a leader in a nonprofit. Well, you can, but you will limit the success because it's all about being able to influence people. And the way that you influence people is by understanding people. and coming alongside of someone. That only happens when you have that emotional intelligence.
To me, that makes good sense, like across the board, whether you're a nonprofit or a for-profit.
Totally. Yeah, I agree.
Here's another one from my list. Higher emotional resilience. Would it feel good if you had more emotional resilience? Like you're just able to cope with things, deal with stressful situations, maintain your positive attitude.
Maintain your equilibrium, maintain your center, as we talk about with the self-awareness journey. I think that's a really key thing, because when you talk about resilience, you are talking also about energy, right? The ability to maintain your centeredness or your equilibrium when you have resilience takes less energy than if you don't. If you don't have that EQ focus or awareness, it takes so much energy to try to control and get yourself to a place where you can function. I've seen people in sessions, in groups, team sessions, where somebody gets triggered by something someone else says, and you can see them absolutely lose their focus. They get mad, they shut down, their eye contact goes down, and then the rest of the session, they're unable to participate because they're just fighting with themselves to try to have control, or at least not let people see how upset they are.
That also kind of makes me think about being like adaptable. There's like this famous book, I think it's called like Anti-Fragile. Anyway, the idea was like, how do you build resiliency and things that are like
that's interesting,
that don't break. Things that don't break aren't rigid, they're flexible.
Yeah, right, exactly.
Like a piece of glass is not rigid and it shatters into a million pieces easily.
Or it is rigid. Yeah.
Or is rigid and it shatters. Whereas like a piece of rubber is flexible and doesn't break easily. So what are some other ones? Increased just empathy and compassion, which I think is something we all need in the world. More empathy.
I have to like make a little personal call out here. I agree with you. I think empathy and compassion are words that we don't use as much in the business world, as it relates to work. And I would say that early in my career, or early in me being a younger adult, I would say I was so focused on trying to get ahead myself, or so worried about what other people were thinking of me. I really wasn't focusing much on other people, except am I comparing myself to them appropriately? Am I winning? Am I competing? I mean, I think that's more of what I was. I did a lot of work over the years to have more less judgment about myself, more awareness of myself. And it has absolutely increased my compassion and my empathy, not only for myself, but for other people. And without it sounding like just like a rah-rah show, I will say it feels so good to have compassion and empathy for other people. It feels good. It's just so nice to be in conversation with people when they can sense that you have compassion for them. They sense that you have empathy for them. And it just makes the relationship and the conversation or the interaction or interchange so much easier and so much nicer.
Yeah. Yep.
So it really feels good. It isn't even just a stat. It really is amazing how you can feel by allowing more flexibility with other people, because that means you're doing it with you first. You can't do it with other people unless you're doing that with yourself first.
Even for a while years ago, I was like running around. That's funny, just running around randomly. Just talking to people about like what I was calling an epidemic of empathy in our society.
What did you mean?
So I meant that like if you have if there's an epidemic, it's generally not a good thing. It's like like a widespread lack of empathy.
Oh, lack of.
And so like what I was probably reacting to was, even in like, we're not going to get into politics, but even like in our political culture and culture in general, like, hey, where did the empathy go here? Why is everyone like yelling at each other and not trying to understand each other?
Right. I actually think it's okay to bring up the political landscape, particularly right now, because I think this plays into a lot of how people are feeling. And I think it is very, very difficult. It's very difficult for people to emotionally stay more stabilized and more calm with the political landscape the way that it is, regardless of which party you're in.
Yeah. So it applies both personally and across society.
Yeah. So you were thinking that were you saying that there was a big epidemic, like in terms of there was too much empathy, or there wasn't any?
There wasn't any, like more like a pandemic.
A pandemic. Okay, I gotcha.
I could have worked, maybe I needed to work on my marketing there. That's why it wasn't working. Well, okay, so all of those things, right? All of those things, what does it really boil down to is just better mental health.
Yeah. Right? Yeah. Better mental, emotional, and spiritual health and physical health. All of them are tied together.
All of it.
Yes. One informs the other.
Yep. So, okay, so all that sounds good. You want that, right? Like everyone, and now everyone's listening is like, oh yeah, now I want to be more emotionally intelligent. How do you get there? So, again, going back to Mary's stuff, I did take Mary's test.
Okay, I can hear her voice.
Intelligent am I?
Okay, so I can hear her voice right now, and she would say to you, "It's not my test. I didn't write that test."
Okay, the one she collected and put together.
Yes, right, exactly.
Well, I thought it was really so. Now we're just gonna take all of her stuff. She's got this 15 question
questionnaire.
It's not a questionnaire survey kind of thing. And you take it and you like add up your numbers, and then it like kind of interprets how emotionally intelligent you are.
Right.
Which I thought was really pretty interesting because there's no, when you're just like walking around, like there's no like good feedback for this.
No.
I mean, there's some feedback if you start really getting into it.
Yeah.
And you do all the things that like I started doing, which is like researching all of these elements of EQ and things like that. So I thought this was like a pretty fun little start.
Right.
Can I just rattle off the questions real quick?
Yeah. And actually what I was going to say is we should, if people are interested in taking this assessment, they should drop us a message at melissa@theselfawarenessjourney.com or jj@theselfawarenessjourney.com, and we'll send it to you for free. It literally takes, what did it take you? 6 minutes? Oh, okay, 1 minute. Well, no, if you had to total the numbers and read the back, probably 6 minutes. True. You're such an exaggerator. But anyhow, it's a lot of times people think like, oh, this is a really interesting topic, but it's just too big for me, or I don't have time to read a 600-page book. You just absolutely don't have to. And this assessment is so great. So yes, I think it would be a great thing for you to read off the questions. But if someone wants to take it themselves or use it with other folks, it's a really fun tool just for conversation.
Yeah, I even found myself just by the questions being like, oh, I can work on that.
Yeah, right, exactly.
All right, here we go. I'll go fast. So this is like a scale thing from not at all, rarely, sometimes, often, and very often.
Okay, yep.
That's the scale.
Yep.
I can recognize my emotions as I experience them. I lose my temper when I feel frustrated. People have told me that I'm a good listener. I know how to calm myself down when I feel anxious or upset. I enjoy organizing groups. I find it hard to focus on something over the long term. I find it difficult to move on when I feel frustrated or unhappy. I know my strengths and weaknesses. I avoid conflict and negotiations. I feel that I don't enjoy my work. I ask people for feedback on what I do well and how I can improve. I set long-term goals and review my progress regularly. I find it difficult to read other people's emotions. I struggle to build rapport with others, and I use active listening skills when people speak to me. So those are her 15 questions.
I remember when I took that assessment as well. I remember almost half those questions. I was like, "What? What does that have to do with EQ?" So then it's just that's all on the first page, and then the second page breaks it into is it 3 categories or was it 4? I can't remember.
Of like scoring it?
Yeah. So then what you do is you score your totals, and it shows you how to do that. And then it breaks it down into categories of numbers. So depending on if you're highest to or lowest to highest numbers.
Yeah, 3.
Yeah. So 3 groups. That's what I thought. So there's 3 groups of scoring, and it's just fascinating to.
You better got 100% on this test, or I'm going to kick you off the pod.
Bye.
No, I'm just kidding.
Okay, bye.
Well, yeah, some of them were really interesting. Like, some of them I found myself like I enjoy organizing groups. It's like,
what does that have to do with anything? Right.
Do with it.
Yeah, that was one of the ones that I was surprised at as well.
When I was in high school, my group of friends called me the event coordinator.
Okay, that is hilarious.
Right? They're like, JJ, what are we doing this weekend? I'm like, why are you looking at me? He's like, because you're the event coordinator. I'm like, okay.
Yeah. You're also with the same friends that you attached a surfboard to the back of a bumper in the snow and went whatever.
I'm not saying I was intelligent about
down the middle
our
of
activities,
the road in Minneapolis.
But I coordinate. But we were all there, and we all had an experience.
Oh my gosh.
Everyone knew that we were surfing behind cars.
Mrs. Parker, bless your heart. Don't know how you made it through.
Don't know
how you did it.
The other one that really struck me is I asked people for feedback on what I do well and how I can improve. We a few months ago at work, we had hired this external firm to do some work for us, which required us to do a lot of work. Data and books and presentation, all this stuff. And I would just every single interaction, I'm like, give us feedback on how we did on this. How was this presentation? How was this? How was that? And they're like, why are you, we're getting kind of frustrated because I kept on prodding. I'm like, they're like, you did great. I'm like, nope. I throw that answer away. What can we improve? We did not do a perfect. Give us some actual feedback and not your you did great, guys.
Yeah. Pat, pat, pat.
And it was funny because I noticed that they were getting kind of frustrated with it. And I was getting this reputation about why does JJ want us to be so critical of him? And I just didn't want them to be mean, but I did want the real feedback, not the feedback that everyone gives you on the first pass.
I was recently doing a team session. There were 6 leaders, and one of the leaders was giving feedback to another leader and saying, well, this and this and this and this. Well, don't take it personally. And I said, stop. What if they did? What if they did take it personally? But what if they did with the lens of objectivity and curiosity? Right? There's huge opportunity there for awareness and growth.
I love that. Don't take it personally. Of course I'm going to take it personally. You just said it to me.
No, it's but what if they can?
And that's okay. I will take it personally, and that's okay.
Exactly.
But I like that people try to use that as some sort of disqualifier about their honesty.
Smooth over the waters that I'm going to shove you in.
Don't take it personally, but you're a real ass.
No. But I'm sure you don't mean to be.
Okay. So I like getting this baseline of maybe about thinking about some of these things that play into emotional intelligence and because to me, I'm even in my scoring, I was like, oh, here's some things I can work on. This is great. Even from this little quiz, I've got a list of things that I know I can work on.
Yeah, no, I did too. Felt the exact same way. Some of it surprised me. I was surprised by certain things. So, and I would say, so if that's something people are interested, again, drop us an email and we are happy to send it to you. The other option is you can go online, and there's so many quick articles and whatnot about emotional intelligence, and EQ is what you would want to look for the quick version if you want to do a little deeper dive into the topic.
Okay. We're going to set a record on how long this podcast is. It's awesome because we're not done yet. Oh
my gosh. More. We're not? Oh.
No.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
What
so
else
we figured out what it was. We figured
Yep.
out what it was. We
Yep.
kind of figured out how to see it in ourselves,
Right.
and what some of those things are.
Yep.
But how can we improve our emotional intelligence? That's like the last thing I want to talk about.
Yeah. Well, bring it on home because that's very important. How can we?
Yeah.
You tell me.
Now that we've discovered all of this, move on. Don't do anything. Well,
don't do anything. Go watch TV with a bag of
So first, it would just be improve your self-awareness.
Yeah.
Right? Because you're not going to make any progress until you start seeing these things in yourself. To me, like that's step number one.
Right.
And everyone listening to the podcast is already on that train.
But I don't know how many people listening today recognize that we have a website by the same name that has a bunch of free resources on it. There's a free course.
And an entire course.
There's an entire course. There's a workbook. There's a bunch of fun little videos that we did. Situationally, you might find those interesting. So that is a really big reference for self-awareness improvement if that's what you're interested in.
So some of those bullet points are obviously one.
Yep.
Listen to the Self-Awareness Journey podcast.
Yep.
Clearly, number one.
Obviously. Of course.
But you talk about it all the time, Melissa. It's just like listen to what your body is saying. Because like we said, that limbic system fires first. All of that data comes from your senses, from your body.
Yep.
And if you can sit and feel where that stuff, you say all the time, when I say like I'm upset and you say where are you feeling it?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
That's a really good skill.
Yep.
Release judgment.
Yeah, it's
how often do we get in a shame spiral or judge ourselves or like I shouldn't feel this way. I feel this way, but I shouldn't feel this way, and you just try to sweep that out. So just releasing judgment around how you feel.
Right.
Understanding your triggers.
Yep.
We have an entire module about triggers.
And those, but I'm shamelessly plugging the self-awareness journey.
We never
do
that, so go ahead.
But I was just going to say, all of it's free on the website. You don't have to sign up. You don't have to log in, nothing. Just go to the website and you can choose the video that's called Triggers in the courses. It's a great one.
And then just generally be inquisitive about what's happening inside.
Right. Yeah. Be curious.
Mm-hmm.
Be curious. Yeah, I love it. This has been such a great topic. I can't believe... Oh, is there more? Sorry.
I'll keep going. If you want to keep going, I'll keep going.
I love this topic. I can't believe we haven't talked about this topic before.
Because self-awareness is one part of it.
Yeah.
But there's more to the equation because sometimes before you can even get to that point, like you have to have some amount of like self-management.
Yeah.
Right? Like you've got to like give some space.
Right.
Like you have to give yourself some space and some grace to start noticing those things. So like when you get a big emotional swell, how are you going to give yourself the space to actually think about what is happening?
Yes.
So that's like
feel your way out of it.
Breathing techniques, counting to 10, sleeping on it, understanding your own self-talk. Don't dive into your self-critical shame spiral.
Right, exactly.
All
these things sound so easy when you list them out as a list.
I know.
I think the number one piece to all of this is slowing down just to remind yourself that you're in this process. Because if you can slow down, it gives you, even if it's just a 3-count beat, it does give you so much time then to change or decide how you want to act or what you want to focus on.
Yep. All right. Well, we should probably do a part 2.
We probably need to.
At some point.
We probably need to.
We'll report back. We'll try to implement these things ourselves, and then we'll report back.
Oh, great topic though. Thanks for doing all that research. That was really helpful. I enjoyed hearing about it from that perspective as well. I mean, I'm always talking about it and thinking about it and from my perspective, but it's always so interesting to hear from yours because you reach your conclusions in such a different manner. It's always fun to hear the difference.
Thanks.
Did you enjoy this episode? Please go to your favorite podcast platform to subscribe, rate, and leave a review so others can discover it as well.
Growing self-awareness is a lifelong journey, and there's always further to go. And it's better when we're all in it together. Please think of someone you know who could benefit from hearing today's conversation and share this episode with them. We can't thank you enough for listening. Until next time, happy exploring, seekers.